the rest of the panelists. This morning, Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan gave a pretty in-depth presentation of the crossroads of peace, and he showed the transportation routes, the railroads, the roadways. And, you know, I tried to ask the question to the Foreign Minister of Hungary as well about the partnership that we have to develop with Azerbaijan if we want this to be a reality. Otherwise, it looks lovely on paper, but it can be a very naive approach, because if you don't have a partner who agrees with you or who sees the same vision for peace with you, how do you mitigate that? How do you move beyond that? I understand, and it's very commendable that Armenia's government is speaking in the language of peace, but what are the concrete actions that need to take place in order for that dialogue, because it's called Yerevan Dialogue, with Azerbaijan to take place, and also taking into consideration the other regional players?
Thank you. First, I'd like to say a couple of words about the Crossroads of Peace project. It's a very simple concept, and it's based on basic principles of international law and on basic logic. We are ready to have unblocked communications, roads, railroads, cables, and everything else, you name it, based on the respect of sovereignty and territorial integrity of parties, in this case Armenia and Azerbaijan and all countries surrounding them, based on exercising jurisdiction of respective parties. I think it's very logical that a country would have the right to and would like to exercise its jurisdiction on its territory and have its territorial integrity respected, and based on the principles of equality and reciprocity. Again, it would be very logical that if a country uses the territory of the neighboring country to transport goods and people, the other party would expect the same rules and the same preferences for itself. And this is, I can't imagine anyone arguing against this, and there can be only one explanation for anyone to argue against these very basic, just and logical principles. The only case is when this person or his state is not interested in building architecture of peace, but is interested in building an architecture of conflict. And unfortunately, if we look at the positions of Azerbaijan, you can clearly see that they are directed at creating a new architecture of conflict, because you can even see that in the namings of, or the headlines of the projects. From our side, it's Crossroads of Peace. We want the Caucasus to be this big crossroad of peace. By the way, not only Armenia, we want the whole Caucasus to be a crossroads of peace, because without our neighbors it's impossible, and it's understandable. But unfortunately, from the Azerbaijani side, they have decided that they can name a road on a territory of Armenia, which is disrespectful and illogical. They have decided that they should put forward conditions on how transport routes should operate on the territory of Armenia, and their position is that if this doesn't happen, they will keep blockading Armenia. So you can see that all their positions are aimed at creating a new architecture of conflict at times where there is a truly historic opportunity to create an architecture of peace. And by the way, regarding security, Azerbaijan, as it is known, and those who support Azerbaijan voice about the necessity of third parties guaranteeing security over connectivity. But I think that's again illogical, because if we want peace, well, and at least Armenia does want peace, that means that the people should interact. That means that an Armenian passing through the territory of Azerbaijan should feel safe, and it's Azerbaijan's responsibility to guarantee the safety of the Armenian passing through the territory of Azerbaijan, and vice versa. The whole notion that an Azerbaijani passing through Armenia's territory shouldn't meet Armenians on its way is again in the logic of conflict, not in the logic of peace. Coming back to your question, what action is needed for peace to happen? Again, the answer is very, very simple. If the Azerbaijani leadership decides that they want peace, peace is possible literally tomorrow. Literally tomorrow. If they have or create political will to have peace, we will have open communications tomorrow based on the principles I just talked about. If they want peace, we can sign the peace treaty tomorrow, because as it has been talked about, Armenia has sent the last edition of the draft peace treaty to the Azerbaijani side, which includes all the paragraphs which have already been agreed, and those parts which have not been agreed on have been eliminated. But we think that these paragraphs which are agreed are already a sound basis for a peace treaty, and all the questions that have been left out can be discussed in the future. So political will needs to rise among the leadership of Azerbaijan, and peace is more than possible tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.